We started.
Hey. Jan, Justin, thank God the show hasn't started yet. Hello. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hockey Buzzcast. Russ now has something to say.
Well, let's talk about the Miami Marlins, who technically are not playing for a while. Maybe Friday, maybe Monday, maybe never.
Yeah, they said through the weekend.
Yeah, I think it should be never because apparently at least one, but it can't be one, right? One guy doesn't just go out on a town. Clearly there were more. But Bob Nightingale broke the story wide open where when they were in Atlanta, they went out on the town. And they didn't just go out to eat. Obviously, they went, I don't know, and I know everybody's going to be like, did they go to a place in Orlando? I don't know where they, like that place. I don't know where they went.
No, they went to the same place that Lou Williams went for his chicken wings.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know if they went to that. But the idea is, then we talked about yesterday, Jan and I, the fact that when the Mets had their game against Atlanta, two of the catchers were left behind. Well, why was that? Because at the time they said, yeah, there was some faulty testing, so they were just playing it safe. Or did those guys go out too? And
right.
So, that's something now that we're going to find out down the road. But clearly Don Mattingly had to know about this because when they had their little meeting the other day before they played the Phillies, when they decided they would play the Phillies and not wear masks, even though they knew someone, at least a couple of guys were going to test positive on their team, they went out and did it anyhow. So to me, not only should the Marlins be out for this season, but they should have a major fine too. And look, and Derek Jeter ended up catching it too. So it's like, I don't want to add on to his troubles, but he does deserve to get fined in the whole club.
Yeah, it's astonishing. Oh man, unbelievable. It's just like it's the typical privileged baseball thing. It's why this sport shouldn't exist anymore. It's just one of the many reasons. That's part of it. I'm just gonna say it.
Okay, somebody mute Eck, please.
I know.
just my 2 cents.
And by the way, Eck, when I came down to Philly,
$1
we actually went to a Phillies game, so you can't say you hate baseball.
That's true. I don't hate baseball. Like I said, I was a big time little leaguer. I was an all-star. Everything. I don't hate baseball.
We don't need to hear that story again. But you said 2 cents and you threw down a sack of Jawea. That's what you did.
Okay, I'm muting Ak. No, just
I am. For a while with Boa, Manny.
You muted Jan, damn it.
So Jan muted himself.
During the the days of
Eck, when's the last time you swung a baseball bat?
Oh no, I played. My wife and I played in a softball league just like 2 years ago.
Okay, all right.
It's fun. I love playing baseball. It's a great thing.
Well, then you can't say baseball shouldn't exist if you still like playing it.
No, I shouldn't say that. I should say professional baseball shouldn't exist. How about that? Like it's just like I think professional basketball shouldn't exist. I love college basketball. I like playing basketball. Okay. But I think what happens is just pro sports. They're just too entitled. Just that starts to get to me. Like, and this feels like an entitlement thing. Like we're invincible, entitled. We go out, do whatever we want to do.
There's no question. I can't lie about that.
That's why I like hockey. Even teams like the Kansas City Scouts, which this shirt represents, we're reputable people. But anyway,
an American Indian on that horse?
Yeah, it actually is. It's funny. So it's an Indiana Scout. Like a forward on his horse.
So they'd be changing.
They'd be changing.
I think it's appropriate. It's funny. We're watching this show.
Is that appropriate for 1972? Do you think it's appropriate?
I think it's still fine. I don't think this
is that a feather? Is that a feather in the top?
It is a feather. Yeah, that's what took me off, Mike.
It's not like I don't think this is a bad characterization of an Indian.
It's got to be reviewed.
The horses everywhere, but not.
All right, I'm going to give you a little test. How did you feel the Lone Ranger's characterization of Tonto was?
I wasn't into that. I knew that was wrong. We were just talking about it the other day. Like we were watching the show. Have you ever just totally aside. So we won't talk baseball, but let's talk reality television for just a second. Have you guys seen the show called Below the Deck?
No, I've never watched.
All right, so my wife and I like watching reality. Right? It's like we like watching reality shows, it's funny because honestly, I always hate it, but I get it. I get it now because what it is it's like active television. Like you can watch it with somebody and talk. Like instead of just sitting down and watching television for a couple hours and binge watching something, you're talking and mocking people. It's much more fun. That's the fun part of it. So Below the Deck, they have this thing, and I'm looking at like episodes from like 2015, and they had Mexican. It was one family wanted Mexican nights. They weren't Mexican. They just wanted a Mexican party. So they all dressed up with like sombreros and like and put little mustaches on, and it was and like we're like, oh yeah, like making up these, and it just felt like, why is that not wrong? like why is that acceptable? It felt like just like they were mocking Mexicans as much as, I don't know. It was really interesting.
In 2015, that was acceptable.
I know, but blackface wasn't acceptable, and even in 2015.
Sure it was.
Yeah.
Sure it was. Robert Downey Jr. in a movie.
I guess. But to me, there's very little difference between this. Like
it's changing.
Tropic of Thunder. I think it was Tropic of Thunder.
Tropic
Thunder.
The mores of the times have changed.
The mores have changed. I get that. It's just interesting. Watching everything, you definitely get a whole different perspective on stuff when you watch some shows. Even from but we're like saying even 5 years ago, like some of the stuff like against women in the show.
Like that, because I'll never go on a cruise, but you're watching the people who work for the cruise ships. Now that you know about them, would you cruise?
No, I don't. I'm not into cruises. I don't like cruises very much. I won't go. I do a waiter a lot, so it's honestly just waiting. You're a waiter too, and it's like it's just like waiting tables, and you get it's just like the hotel. It's no different than what you did, Russ, with hotels. The backstory behind all that stuff's going on.
Yeah.
It's fun, and there's people in that industry, like they get cash all the time. They play hard, and they weird hours and stuff like that. We like to just like they go to awesome places like in the Caribbean. It's just fun to watch. Pretty people in pretty places sometimes, especially right now when you can't travel anywhere. All right, here we go. Let's start. We've got a lot to talk about today. Today is the 29th of July. Oh, good Lord. All right, here we go. Hello, Hockey World. It is Wednesday, July 29th, 2020.
I'm Michael Agello, and I've never been on the Love Boat, and I've never watched the Love Boat.
I'm Chad Levine, and Mike had to watch Fantasy Island then.
You must have watched the Love Boat.
The plane!
I'm Anthony Mangione, and I'm not a big fan of cruise ships.
Russ Cohen, I'll never cruise, and I've got my P40 whistle here.
P-less 40 whistle. P-less 40 whistle. And I'm Eklund, watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast.
I wish it was P-less.
Every Monday through Friday to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And we got a game going on as we speak, which is new. And I like that. And so far, Braden Point is like stealing the show. And right now, the game is happening. We won't talk about that while you guys are watching.
When the games are meaningless, you can't.
Yeah, well, he's been. This just shows you that Braden Point is a friggin' good player. Like
he's a really good player. Sure,
a really good player, and not just like, and definitely going to get paid at some point.
He'll get paid. Yeah.
But let's talk whistles first, Russ, because you got the whistle. Mine's coming today. I can't wait. I'm going to go outside and whistle at things.
It makes no noise, which is weird because I've never had a whistle where it doesn't make any noise.
It doesn't make noise?
No. I mean when you shake it.
When you shake it. Okay, so it's
I'm going to blow it now. My wife will probably yell at me.
There you go. That's
it.
A
lousy sound. Yeah.
Going into any piece of plastic you can find anywhere.
I'm not impressed, but I guess
we're actually supposed to hear the whistle, right?
I'll blow into this cap.
It wasn't great. I will say that.
Same as what you did.
It blows.
It blows. Well, there you go.
I wonder if because they're mic'd up, it will sound a little better. You're supposed to hear this a mile away. I don't
get that at all. How do you hear that a mile away?
Yeah, various birds and animals
right.
heard it now. Like, what the hell?
I guess we have super hearing.
Russ has got every animal congregating by the back door now going, why did you do that?
Well, Anna's deaf, so she's immune.
Yeah, she's not going to hear it.
That's crazy. Well, there you have it. I mean, I think you heard it here first, the P-less whistle. And that's solid entertainment. We aim to please. But let's talk. I want to talk about
investigative journalism.
Before we start, let's talk about how it looked. Okay, how it looked yesterday. Before we get into the games, because the games were interesting too, I thought. I thought it looked pretty good. I thought they did a pretty good job with it.
It looked great. I had no qualms with the way the game looked. I thought I could tell what they were talking about the other day on air when I went on the call about seeing the speed a little better. You did. Best example was Paul Byron against the Leafs. It looked like he was on like his own little planet as fast as he was going before he got knocked on a dirty play into the net. But we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I thought it was great. There were little things, when they're trying to do all those little things for the home team and whatever, like, the sound guys are going to have a hard job because at one point the goal horn was a little late for the Penguins with their little celebration, but that's a timing thing. That's okay.
And it was late for Kerfoot's goal, but they didn't even know that it went in until the referee.
Right.
I was really impressed in the Penguins-Flyers game that they had the goal that the Flyers play when the other team scores.
Yeah.
When they put that whatever that goal is, the jumping up and down or whatever that song is.
Now. The Shawnee song. We don't know. That could be the Penguins' goal song now.
Yeah, I realize that
it could be. I don't know.
It actually is the goal that Flyers play when the other team scores goals, though.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. They probably are only going to play the other team's goal song, but maybe that's their song now.
Yeah, I don't think they should do that. They should have the home team.
This wasn't a full-on. I don't think yesterday was supposed to be a full-on
they definitely held back.
Package. Like
they held back.
They held back and they split the ice. If everybody saw, the ads were removable, and one half of the ice would have been predominantly Flyer sponsors, and the other ones were Penguin sponsors.
Right.
So we'll probably see a bit more of that rolled out when we start the first playing games in the round robins, where it's more fully resembles, or as much as you can, the home arenas of the teams.
Overall, I liked the appearance of the arena, the tarps and the lower bowl. I thought it looked pretty sharp. I thought, we'll talk about the individual teams, but I thought the play was pretty good. I mean, granted, we're all junkies for hockey, and we just saw guys skating around, and we were very happy to see it. But I have to say though that, and I'm not attacking anybody here, but the game ops were a little rusty after 4.5 months. When you make the announcement that say we're going to honor Eddie Shack with a moment of silence, and the fake crowd noise continues.
Yeah,
that's bad.
I thought the fake crowd noise was bad in general. Like,
I didn't think it was terrible.
It's not. My son said it sounded like they turned a fan on. Like it was like not like not a fan, but
They have to bring the volume up, I think, a little bit. That's probably the biggest concern that I have, because I think Greg Wyshynski probably said it best. I feel like I'm watching a 2 a.m. World Junior Championship qualifier, and I think that's a good way to describe the audio.
Yeah,
that's how it was.
But we're gonna have a moment of silence, and it's murmur.
All right, but
that's forgivable.
But for a preseason, there's no intent. There should be no intensity in the crowd anyway, right? That was like, to me, I'm like, okay, that's kind of there would be no intensity in the crowd.
That's fair.
Now
even though it's not, we can't call it. It should be. You gotta stop calling it a preseason game and start calling it a postseason.
One more arena thing that I find fun, me personally, because I interacted a lot with him during his years with SiriusXM. Mike Rossi's doing double duty now. He's doing both games.
Right, and he being the PA announcer for the Leafs.
I didn't know that was him.
Says we're going to have the U.S. and Canadian national anthems, and then says it in French, which is great. And then, because you're playing Toronto-Montreal, they don't play the U.S. national anthem when they play Toronto versus Montreal, because it's two Canadian teams. So they announced the U.S. anthem and then didn't sing it, didn't have it.
But on the flip side, though, they actually did the U.S. and Canadian national anthems when you had Pittsburgh against Philly, which is interesting also.
Because the thing is in Toronto. That's right.
It was also the first time they're rolling it out, so they wanted to see sort of how – I think they wanted to play it to see how it rolled out. Because everything yesterday to me was just, let's roll this thing out. Let's roll each of the things that we have out and see what's working, and have like a checklist of, okay, need to fix this, this is good, keep this. That's what it felt like to me watching the games yesterday. And it wasn't annoying in that respect.
It's like UAT, right? You're doing user access testing, right? You're getting out all the bugs. You're coming up with all the things that have to be fixed.
And preseason is when you do it.
And the piece of the boards, right? That's going to be something we're seeing on every game, right? Every game we're going to have rolling boards to reflect the local flavor in terms of who's playing. And I think the NHL sent out a tweet in terms of like a 2-3 minute video of the tweaks they made to the arena itself, right? And I think they put that together rather rapidly compared to what they normally do. But I thought they did a pretty good job of where you recognize fans weren't there. You didn't focus on the fact that fans weren't there based on the way they made the arena look.
And we have to acknowledge, because yesterday it was messaged out by the NHL that some of the games, I think 2 of the games, are going to be carried on Twitter for live look-ins. So they're using social media more broadly than they did before. And another thing, they advertised a new advertiser of Little Caesars as like the official pizza of the NHL, which it's owned by the Illiches.
one thing though, I think they're doing. I'll tell you why I think they're doing the Twitter. I don't think it's because they want to be better at social media. I think they realized yesterday when the second game was on the NHL Network that half the people who are cord cutters in the United States could not get that game. They couldn't get Leafs, Canadiens, and then if you're not getting the game, that's advertisers that are going to say not everybody's seeing that game, and they're not happy.
But cord cutters can get that game, Russ.
No, they couldn't.
No. If you're a cord cutter and you have Sling TV, which is like the Sling TV net, service, which you pay. I'm not sure. We have Sling TV here. I'm not sure how much it is a month, but it's not that much, and it has NHL Network as one of the stations on it. So, that's how I watched it because we don't have regular cable here. So, I watched it on Sling TV. But that's it wasn't on like I'm surprised the NHL Network's not on like Hulu TV or something like that. That would be good.
Yeah, all right, but not everybody has Sling. Like there were people online saying yesterday, "How do we get this game? We can't watch."
Yeah. That's for sure. I mean that is going to be an issue. I think that for the most part, though, when moving forward, most of the games are going to be NBC something, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think most of them are NBC. There's 2 games I think that's on USA Network if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I saw that.
5 days, and I think 2 of the games are on the regular NBC channel. I think Montreal Pittsburgh is one, and I think there's one other game they're airing at 8:00 on NBC the first 5 days.
The Flyers' first game is on NBC actually.
Right. So the USA games,
correct. Mm-hmm.
Those USA games are going to be hard to get. There's probably a Sportsnet exclusive or 2 in there too, I'm sure.
I think the ones that are Sportsnet exclusive will be on NHL Network because the Leafs Montreal was Sportsnet exclusive.
Right. So not everybody can get every game right now unless you spend extra money because there are some people now that are going to have to go if they want to watch it, spend the extra money. So that's a little bit of an issue.
I think Sling TV. I've got to try to find the price on Sling TV for people, but it's kind of worth it.
We have it's a minor breaking news, but I figure we should mention it because we talked about it a few days ago about the renaming of the Washington football team and the Cleveland Indians, and the Blackhawks came out with a statement just a few minutes ago. As we prepare to return to play and represent you in the Stanley Cup qualifiers in Edmonton, we want our fans to be very clear on what it means to be part of the Blackhawks family, regardless of whether we can be together in the arena. We have always maintained an expectation that our fans uphold an atmosphere of respect, and after extensive and meaningful conversations with our Native American partners, we have decided to formalize those expectations. Moving forward, headdresses will be prohibited for fans entering Blackhawks sanctioned events at the United Center when Blackhawk home games resume. These symbols are sacred, traditionally reserved for leaders who have earned a place of great respect in their tribe, and should not be generalized or used as a costume for everybody to wear. Other than that, they're not changing the name.
Well, but raise your hand if you thought people were walking into the United Center with a headdress. I had no idea this was still going on.
Yeah. It wouldn't shock me one bit, honestly. At this point, why would that surprise you at all?
I'm just surprised. I guess that's me.
That's crazy. Sling TV, $20 a month, guys. 50 channels right now.
So some people might want to do that.
That's the way to go. I mean, it's way cheaper than cable TV. You might even want to think about it. If what you don't get is, of course, your local, NBC Sportsnet channels. I don't think are on here, but you can get that with apps. There's different ways of getting that.
No, you can get the NBCSM with an app.
Right. But Sling TV is the way to go.
Although I think with the app, it may ask you for your server.
It does. I think it does.
Cable TV thing.
I'm pretty sure it does. When I log in, it asks me for my service provider when I do it.
It does.
Yeah, so we're really talking about over air or just those NBC games.
Right. It's true. And I mean, there are other ways, obviously. Not that
Yeah, they weren't easy. I looked just for the hell of it yesterday. They weren't easy to find. I will say
there are channels out there, of course, that stream these things. If you look it up, especially if you go to Reddit. So I've been told this at least. If you go to Reddit and you look up streaming NHL games, you can find pretty much everything. But
5 minutes after you do, you'll get a virus.
You might get a virus. You got to be careful. Careful what you're doing, for sure. So, yeah, but there are ways. I do agree though. It's not super convenient. And in playoffs, but then again, we're talking about these things are happening because of these networks that are getting paid money to put them up. So the reason these games are happening is because of this. So it's it's a little bit tough to complain about that too at some point. That's a tough one. Like, are we? I always think, like with sports, like football, they always say it's got to be free. Every football game's got to be free.
Before we get into the specific teams, I wanted to ask everybody, because I liked some of the angles that were implemented, during power plays, during 5-on-5. So obviously they're still working out the bugs. There was one 2-on-1 that involved the Leafs where the camera was basically focused on the one player. And you couldn't see the play developed, and it was sort of zoomed in. But other than that, I liked seeing the play develop at certain different angles, and that's only available because the lower bowl is completely open. They can put cameras.
You're getting angles that we wouldn't normally get during broadcasts. So I thought it was, for the most part, I liked the angles where they took, I thought for the most part, those low angles are something you don't normally get, even certainly in a broadcast. The only way you would probably see that is if you actually had seats down there.
Yeah.
So bringing people in like that, I think is a really good aspect of element. We saw a little bit of this with the NBA too, with how they kind of set up some of their camera work on the floor. But again, for hockey, in terms of having that area available.
The puck never got lost. Like, we didn't have to anticipate where the puck was going.
No, it was good. It was really good, and the streams were good too. The streams were good too. Like, the quality of the streams were really good. Better than I don't have cable here. It's I'm very recognizable whether or not streams are bad. And sometimes they were pretty solid yesterday. Sometimes the only thing like Sling TV and some things like cable like that is you are a little bit more delayed than, so if you're on Twitter and stuff like that, you got to be
again, I'll commend the NHL and say, after I got off that call, I realized how much money they put into building this for this broadcast. And then you watch Major League Baseball and it's exactly the same. They put nothing into it. You can tell the difference.
The interesting thing is that the Flyers Penguins game was on NBCSN. And if you looked at Game Center Live, it was local broadcast Pittsburgh, local broadcast Philly. So you could get your home announcers for that. So that'll probably be different for Toronto, because
they did a good job on that. Actually, they were at the Wells Fargo.
Jim Jackson, Keith Jones, Taron Hatcher, they all were at the basically operating there. You wouldn't even, honestly, at the end of the day, without obviously Taron being downstairs, they were still running pretty tightly.
No, but even Rich Bradley was there scoring.
No, I know. You're right. I was about to say Rich was there with the stat work. It was good to see as well.
No, it's really something. I mean, I thought if they didn't tell you, you wouldn't have even known. Honestly,
right? No, you could tell. There was a shot at the beginning where I knew that's where they were, and they would just.
You knew where they were, but if you were watching the game, it was seamless. It
was seamless. It was.
Watching the game, I thought, they were making comments once in a while, inside baseball comments to each other. You hear, we're kind of were obviously.
Yeah.
I was wondering if the NHL was sending them, because I talked to somebody, Pete Weber, I think it was, or no, maybe it wasn't Pete, it was somebody else that does games, and they said that there was possible that the NHL could be sending them a big, a high feed, a high up feed, basically, which would give you the feed from the press box, the whole rink, in 4K.
I can tell you for baseball, right? So Howie Rose, I don't know if you saw the tweet, Russ. So Howie Rose kind of tweeted out how he's broadcasting now, right? So he had one computer that had the main feed, and he had a small one that had 4 separate feeds associated with it that he's able to view all the different views at the same time. I'm wondering if they're doing something similar where you're getting the different angles in there, the main view and then separate sub angles.
And we said this a few months ago, and if this works as well as it initially has worked, you're going to see the domino effect of this a few years down the road, maybe not even a few years, maybe next year, where teams will not be sending broadcast crews on the road for money purposes. No hotel.
The predominance of a world feed.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it started in New York I think FAN used to send their guys on the road. Now I think they don't go beyond St. Louis, if I remember correctly. So those guys don't go to the West Coast a lot anymore.
Although I will tell you this, Ek, you wouldn't know this, but as an example, the only thing they're missing on the NHL broadcast is the charm of an older broadcaster complaining. I'll give you an example. Yesterday, there's a certain charm to it. Yesterday, Keith Hernandez is on the Mets broadcast, and he is 10 feet, 15 feet away from Gary Cohen, who's in his own booth. He's the main guy, right? Then Keith and Ron Darling, former players, are in their own area. Then they're separated for social distancing, but they have to have monitors. And Keith is in charge of the one monitor that Ron needs to see, and he's trying to move it. And he goes, "I got this thing. This thing is awful." And then they cut away from him, and Darling just adds on to that. And that's the only thing. The NHL's thing is so slick. We're going to miss some of that.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think you're right about that. But you're always going to have your naturalists complaining about everything. People would rather have this be in 4-3, instead of 16-9.
But I do like the complaining on all fronts from all baseball announcers. That is
baseball especially. It's amazing to me. Baseball, the only team where the defense has the ball, complaining about the whole thing. It's just, to me, it's just insane.
We let him go on a soapbox again at Russ.
Don't get me started about baseball.
Too late.
All right, so the angles. I like the angles, Mike. Like right now, I've got the game on over here, and I'm watching. They were doing that high angle for the Tampa, which really reminds me of NHL, of EA Sports. I have to say, more than anything else, it does remind me of that. If you play EA Sports, that is one of the camera angles you can do. I don't know what it's called, but there's the broadcast. Maybe it's broadcast booth.
I think it was called broadcast.
I don't know if you saw that the NBA is using a court angle.
Yeah,
which they sent out yesterday, which was really cool. I mean, again, even if you don't like basketball, just the way it looks is really cool from the angle because it's not something you're used to seeing. So I have a feeling during a lot of these NHL broadcasts, we may get angles that we're not used to seeing that we start to get a little more used to.
I'm extremely disappointed that there's no VR thing going on with this thing.
Oh my God!
There we go.
Come on,
no, guys. I promise you that if I showed you, when we go back to the press box, sometime when our kids have all graduated from college,
I used it. I thought it was great, but that doesn't mean it's great.
But you haven't watched a game. I watched, and I don't, like I said, I'm not a big pro basketball, but like you said, there's a courtside VR angle, and it is frigging unbelievable to watch it with this thing. I mean, it's just the most amazing thing. You get the size of the players, you get the perspective. You can look wherever you want to at any time on the entire. It is just incredible. And I'm telling you, if you tried this, you'd be like, why the heck doesn't the NHL have this as an option? This is not hard to do.
Because
it's not hard to do. It's not expensive to do.
No, it's sort of a boutique type of thing. It's not mainstream. Right now, they're not interested in virtual reality in terms of one person watching. They want to get millions of people to watch these.
Charge for this. The NBA charges for this. I paid $10 to watch this game. Okay, $10. Okay, to watch.
Right. You know what I think they're going to use that for, Heck? I think local broadcasts will catch on to that. I don't think the NHL is going to use it for national broadcast. I just don't feel like.
The NHL. I think it was 3 seasons ago. No, it was during the San Jose Sharks Penguins final. Did 4 or 5 games in VR. That's a while ago. We're talking that was when it really wasn't prevalent. I mean, now with Oculus and products that are out there the $200, and even Google, you can even use the Google
Glass.
No, not the Google Cardboard thing. Where you can get which anybody can make simply and put your phone up here and use that too. That's another way of doing it. I mean, it's not expensive to get into this. It's cheap. But so the NHL did this a while back, and they abandoned it. There was actually, I remember walking around San Jose when they had the NHL party before the Stanley Cup Finals. They had a booth showing it and all that stuff. I was blown away by it then. But the technology now and the streaming abilities now, the streaming gets better every year. For this kind of stuff. And now, I mean, then you're streaming a hell of a lot of information. When you're doing this 360 view, because you have to be able to look, so you really need a fast internet connection, and you need good quality streaming. And then I think they abandoned it because people had lag issues and stuff like that. But now, I'm telling you, I've watched NBA games, I've watched English league soccer games this way, and it blows your mind. I'm really upset that the NHL is not doing it. I know it's niche still, but it's no question in the future, and there's no question that it's not expensive to do. You really literally $1,000 camera. And they got it. A $1,000 camera mounted on a tripod that shoots in all different directions at the same time. That's all you need to film something in 360. That's it. And it's just that. It just doesn't make sense that this isn't happening. So that's my 2 cents on that. Let's get to the let's talk about the games yesterday. And one of the things I thought was kind of fun to do was talk about since we haven't played for 5 months, and when we've been going through all these teams and talking about every team, we've kind of talked about their question marks that they have. Every team has question marks, and that's typical, question marks going into something and that's sort of, so what in these pre-playoff postseason games can we get what answers can we get to question marks? So to me, I went through the question marks of the teams yesterday, and I'm going to ask you guys some of the question marks going in, and I want you to hear what you think and if you think that they were going. So we'll go in order. We'll do Flyers, Penguins. Start with Pittsburgh, and this is the first question mark that I wrote for the Penguins. I wrote the question marks before the games, just specifically, and I did them for today's games too, so I could get like an idea, so I knew ahead of time. So the Penguins' first question mark to me was who should be their starting goalie. That to me is like at the end of the day, right? What do you think we got yesterday from that?
I saw the latter part of the third period in overtime, and I saw most of the first period. And when I was talking with Russ earlier, I thought Jarry played great. And, it's nice to have the problem of, okay, who should I go with if you're Mike Sullivan? You probably go with Murray because Murray's won 2 cups. But if Murray has problems, I wouldn't hesitate to go to Jarry. Yeah. Jarry looked good. And I'm telling you, this is a great selling point when they get into the offseason and they're going to have to trade one of those goaltenders because they're both restricted free agents. Mm-hmm. You're going to get value for one of those guys if you put them on the trade market.
Right. I thought Murray looked way more shaky than Jarry did.
I wouldn't say Murray was – I wouldn't necessarily – qualify him as shaky. He looked like he still needed to get his legs on him, whereas Jarry to me really looked locked in.
Yeah.
Now at the same time, Philadelphia didn't put as much. I didn't think in the third period Philadelphia put in as much extensive pressure as they probably could have. But the moments that he was tested, he looked on point. He was on his edges very well. He was on his edges. So yeah.
I think actually similar. I thought that actually I thought Elliott and Hart were kind of similar. Like I thought Elliott and Hart were too.
And then
But I thought Murray made one.
We'll get to that too.
Murray made one really good save. He made a really good toe stretch save, and he actually looked like he came up hobbling. A little bit after that, they talked about it on the broadcast.
He was in the first period, one of the first.
He strained something initially. I'm like, oh, this is not good, but he was able to stay in the game. But I don't think. Look, I thought Jarry outplayed him. I don't think Murray played poorly by any stretch of the imagination.
The Penguins fans, predominantly on Twitter, want Jarry to be the goalie in the playoffs.
Jarry's not going to start the series, but I could see them making the argument that if you feel like the defense is breaking down a bit and you need someone more athletic, then they'll put Jarry in.
All right, moving to the next question. How would Jake Gensel look? This is my next question.
Well, I got answered pretty early.
Yeah, he was fine.
He was classic Jake Gensel. He had that short burst. Once he gets in the offensive zone, he had one play on the wraparound where you see that short burst in a small area, and he gets right around the net super fast and whips around a wraparound attempt. And I was just like, you have to count for Jake Gensel. He looked like he was ready to roll yesterday.
He can fly. He can out fly. And the last question I have for the Penguins, I say, is Crosby healthy and ready to play?
The way he looked, I think he's ready to play. Is he healthy? I'm not sure because I thought there was a little bit of it could be rust because, again, these players haven't played at this speed in 4.5 months, but he didn't look fantastic.
He didn't impose.
He was out there. He didn't impose. It didn't feel like felt like he was getting his legs under him. Had a few good plays. He was okay. I thought he was solid at the dot, but Philly for the most part kept him in check. If he had any ideas of making any plays, but again, I wonder how much he was. He's still.
It felt like third gear. It felt like third gear Crosby, didn't it? It felt like third gear Crosby to me. Like. You really didn't see. Third gear Crosby is as good as most players in the NHL, but it doesn't.
I don't think we saw that Crosby. They said he's only been on the ice a couple times. So
to me, this was such a lose-lose situation for Crosby. You're playing against Philly, who hates you, and is going to go. And the players are going to key on you. You don't want to get hurt before the playoffs. It's like this was a really tough spot for. You could see why.
Remember, they said he might not play.
Yeah, no.
I will say he did have one really good. The one play that I noticed is when he had that feed to Sheary. That was the one part of the game where I was like, okay, that's where you got to account for. But after that, it was fairly quiet.
Yeah.
Right. No, Flyers question marks. Is Carter Hart healthy and ready?
He looked fine. He's healthy and he looked fine in net as anti. And maybe initially he might have needed to work a little bit on tracking a little early on. Yeah. A couple of plays I thought he might have been a little bit behind, but then he just kind of went after the first few, he seemed to click in pretty well after that. Hart I thought was fine yesterday.
The only question I'll have is the same question I had all year. Technically, they are away, and when everything was hitting the fan. Elliott was unbelievable. We don't know how Hart's still going to do with that when all of a sudden it's a playoff game and the pressure's on. That's the only thing. Otherwise, he was great.
Yeah, I thought he was pretty good. I mean, the two things I always look for in Carter Hart's game is that he go down too early, and he wasn't going down too early. That was good. The other thing about his game, and this is a small, like, subtle thing, but when he's on the top of his game, like the first goal he let up, he slides across, right? But his pads are in tight on him as opposed to being like flared out at all. You know, like as opposed to going. He's not a butterfly goalie, Carter Hart. He doesn't really do. He's interesting that way, and I like that about him. Like he really plays actually a very similar style for Flyers fans to like Pelle Lindbergh. How Pelle Lindbergh played. Pelle Lindbergh went down the same kind of way, but Hart is better. I mean, because Lindbergh's time there really wasn't, the butterfly was just sort of coming into being, right? But so Hart has a modified butterfly that he uses.
It's a hybrid.
Right, it's a hybrid butterfly. And normally on that like first goal, he goes into that hybrid butterfly as he's sliding across. And this time he didn't. He was like in tight, which gave more than that, probably caused the goal. It's a small little thing, but I've noticed when he's at his best, he plays a little bit more of the hybrid butterfly than he did yesterday, and he doesn't go down as much in certain situations. Like one of the things he likes to do is he likes to go down like on one knee when the puck's in the corner, that kind of thing. That's another sign with Hart when he's like not quite on his game, I think, but he's close. He looked better than I thought he would look for everything that was going on. Is Shane Gostisbehere going to be a factor? That's my other question for the Flyers.
I'm going to say no. I don't think he's even going to be a starter.
I think if we're talking injury, then that's a different story. But do I think he did enough yesterday to warrant changing things up from the way things were laid out during camp? The answer is no, not necessary. It was good to see him, I think, physically whole, moving, but I think there were some defensive things that still need to be worked on. He had decent jump. I think there was definitely still some raw things.
Better than he's looked in some time, I thought. But and it was definitely a talking point among the broadcast in Philly to talk him up.
Well, it's always going to be a talking point.
Well, also people just you want to pull for Shane Gostisbehere. Right. It's hard not to pull for the guy.
But we have to remember the guy who was sitting, Robert Hogg, has played 1,000 times better than Shane Gostisbehere. But they just wanted to see how Shane Gostisbehere looked. Him playing yesterday was no indicator that he's in the lineup now.
Right. Although and then they did talk about how Coach Vigneault has said he's been this has been the best Shane Gostisbehere he's seen in the practice and all that stuff.
Yeah, which means if somebody gets hurt or he doesn't like something, he'll put Gostisbehere in now.
He has that ability to do that.
Right.
I would say, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Timothy Park throws up, is Scott Lofton going to be an X factor? And I'll say this. I mean, Scott Lawton is probably one of the more underrated players in the league right now. Like he's a really slowly gotten better consistently all the time. Like it's just amazing how like every year, every month, it feels like he gets a little, just slowly better. And but if you keep doing that, eventually you're a pretty damn good player. And that's what you're seeing right now. Like
he has more confidence now than he did last year.
He also, considering the fact of where he started in his career, the expectations on him being a high first round pick. Right. And then and then he went to the Phantoms and kind of realized he said, if I'm going to make the league or stay in the league, I have to recognize where my role is going to be. And that is basically as a, middle to bottom six, jack of all trades, put it in every spot that I can, and do what's necessary. And again, he's always been, I think, good defensively. It's just we're starting to see a bit more of his offensive game beginning to emerge in the role that he has now.
He really is turning into like the modern version of Murray Craven to me.
Yeah, it's a good comparison. I was just thinking Murray Craven. That's
what I mean? Isn't that the guy? He's that guy. Like when the Flyers had
to have that to win. Yeah, have to win.
Murray Craven had, and that goal he scored last night or in yesterday's game was very Murray Craven-esque. Like an overtime goal like that, where he comes down and makes like a really way more skilled play than you'd expect him to make with a shot. Like the shot was a beautiful shot.
It was a good shot.
It was a really smart, slick drag to lift.
Right, while he was being hacked, that was
we had seen Lawton miss on a few of those this year, and this time he didn't, so that looked a lot better for him. But he has missed on some of those this year.
He sure has. No, but he's not like a dominant player, but he's definitely a serviceable and could be a factor type player. I don't think I
don't disagree.
Maple Leaf question marks. Mike, here we go. Is their defense ready for the playoffs?
I don't think their defense is good enough, but I don't think it's the fact that they're not ready. I think
I think it's
the fact that
enough for the playoffs.
No, I think it's the fact that they haven't been good enough all year.
Right.
So there's no. I don't think there's been. They're going to clearly rely on the power of their offense and their special teams to carry the day. And the concern that I had yesterday wasn't the defense per se; it was the fact that their penalty killing went 6 for 6 and scored 2 shorthanded goals, but their power play, which they need to produce, will need to produce, went 0 for 3 and didn't look very good.
But nobody's power play was great yesterday.
No.
That's timing.
I'm not going to destroy them because of that, but I'm just saying, with the firepower that they have of Nylander, Matthews, Marner, Tavares, and Barry on the power play against a team like Montreal, who did not look good at all, and we'll talk about that in a minute.
I'll tell you the two things I noticed about the Leafs defense. I thought Dermott was a little lazy, especially on that penalty. It was like he needs to get his timing, and I thought Barry was a legit problem in his own end. He was
awful.
Man.
But one time, and the thing about Barry is like it's one thing to give up the puck, it's another to not try to get it back.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's what you see with Barry. It's like if you give up the puck, like if you're counting battles, like I coached my daughter's soccer team, we'd always count battles won in a game. And I say if you lose a battle, you can still win that battle by getting the ball back or getting Barry loses the puck and doesn't work to get it back.
Yeah.
That's what really makes him infuriating sometimes. And they gave him 30 shots to the Montreal Canadiens yesterday. Now, granted, 6 power plays, like you say, Mike, that's a ton, and 30 shots is not terrible maybe for 6 power plays, but a lot of those penalties were taken when defense was beaten too. That was an issue that I had too. Like that's a problem. Next question: is their goaltending ready?
Yeah, he looked ready.
I thought Anderson looked. Again, you have to say, Montreal's offense is not exactly the 84 or 85 Oilers, but I thought Anderson, the one goal that I had a problem with, I think it was the Byron goal where he kicked the rebound right into the slot. But the puck, the shot, I think it was Weber's shot. Actually, it was more that the shot hit him instead of Anderson making the save. So you can be forgiven for that. But I thought he was fine. I thought he was good.
All right, Montreal Canadiens, can they score?
Yeah, they could score a little bit. Can they score enough? I think the problem is we all saw the lack of mobility now with Shea Weber. It's starting to really – I don't know if it's going to pick up and get better, but I saw when he was turning, he was slow and turning, man, and that's in his own offensive zone. And then, he's not even going to attempt to bring up the puck up the ice either. He passes it right off.
It's hard to watch. He's such a good guy. And
a little rough.
He's a friend. I don't consider many hockey players friends. He's really a friend of mine, and he really, honestly, it's hard to watch. Now he does also make some weird choices. I think because Carey Price is his goalie, and he'll like on the one shorthanded goal that was scored by the defenseman. It's a picture that's on my blog.
Did Riley score?
Yeah, Morgan Riley, right? On that play, if you watch, you have to watch the way Shea Weber handles that. It's like a 2-on-2 kind of that comes down the ice. Shea Weber backs off and just basically turns it into a 2-on-1.
Yeah,
and then just doesn't have a stick on the ice. Or if it's stick on the ice, he maybe even stops the goal. I
don't think Shea Weber was going full out in this game either. I don't.
No, I think that's fair, and I think it's totally true. But yeah, they just – now the other question for the Canadiens, and maybe the bigger question for the Canadiens, can Carey Price carry them?
No. The answer is no.
They're going to win that. If they're going to have any prayer, they're going to hope so.
Yeah, no. Carey Price can win them a game. Can he win them the series? No, not a chance.
I don't even know if he wins a game. I'll be honest. I'm not even sure of that.
I mean, he's a big game player.
I don't know if he's a big game player.
He was a big game player. The question is whether or not
he had one good playoff in his whole career. That's it.
Well, no, he's also some good Olympics, though. He's had some.
Okay. If you want to go with that, sure.
I mean, he's played. I mean, he hasn't been in that many situations. Like the weird Canadiens went really far. He was hurt. Remember that one year. What frustrated me, he made a few nice first saves like that, really type Carey Price type saves, but he did you could see he was getting frustrated at his defensive coverage, and you could see that he would make a save and think he was controlling the rebound enough, the defense should be able to pick it up from there.
I think in the second period it was, when he made the first kick save and then there's nobody there and it goes right back at him right in the net, that's tough for a goalie, man.
That you could see the frustration on him in that. And that's
hard.
He just doesn't have the skill in front of him.
No.
That being said, he can get hot and do things. I don't think he can. I'm not saying he can carry this team, but he wasn't as good as you would have wanted him to be in that game. But then again, I think that I'll give him he's such a star. Like you'd give him the Sidney Crosby mulligan in this thing. And
you know what the problem is? That and this is a good problem and a bad problem. When Nick Suzuki and Paul Byron are your two best players, you're not going far.
Yeah.
It's great for Suzuki. Suzuki looks like the guy I saw in juniors. The vision's there, the smarts.
He really looks good.
The skating's great. He's fitting in great. Byron looks healthy and he's fast, but you need more than that.
Remember that Pacioretty trade? That's how they got him.
Pacioretty's hurt.
And
they got ripped off in that trade for giving up Pacioretty. They didn't get ripped off in that trade.
I have to say though, who was an absolute ghost, and again, it's an exhibition game, so we're not going to rake them over the coals. But who was an absolute ghost for the Canadiens yesterday was Jonathan Drouin. He was terrible.
Yeah, he was. Tartar, I thought was pretty good.
Tartar had a good game.
And Brendan Gallagher was sort of invisible too, which I thought
he had one dirty play.
Until he butt ended Marner, and I said, 4.5 months and Gallagher's game hasn't changed. He's still
Why would it?
Yeah.
Right.
No, he's still a weasel. That's right.
I'm still convinced that Brendan Gallagher and Travis Konechny are the same player.
No, I give Konechny a lot more respect.
So what's the phrase? I am what I am. Somebody has to be.
Yeah. All right, Oilers question marks. Goaltending, good enough, and who?
Well, I don't know if their goaltending was tested. I didn't watch much of that game, so I don't know if their goaltending was tested enough. I'm still worried about it.
I think because great. I thought he played a little better than Smith. I thought Smith played okay, but I don't think Calgary put together a tremendous effort in that contest either.
No, I watched the first I'd say first 25 minutes of that game, and Koskinen was in and didn't really get tested much. Brian Burke said that Smith played really well in the second half, and if he was Tippett, he wouldn't know who the hell to start. And if that's the case, I would lean towards experience, which would be Smith.
Yeah.
Did anybody else? I mean, I know you guys always say I'm a Koskinen.
Tippett had Smith in Arizona, right? So
there's no question.
And Smith,
I actually think they're underplaying what Koskinen did. I mean, Koskinen did not look that bad. I mean, I'm serious. Someone back me up on this.
Is he your new Thomas Greiss? Is this where we're at?
No, he made some serious things. I mean, the thing about Koskinen is he's so friggin' large. He is just enormous. It is a hard.
So was Roman Turek.
No, but I'm saying the size makes him look like he's making saves that other goalies have to move a lot more for than he does. He was.
I don't know. You're the expert on Koskinen. I'll let you.
I don't know. I thought then. Did anyone? No one.
All I can say is that playing Mike Smith, A, you get the veteran guy, and B, you get a guy who is basically a third defenseman out there in terms of moving the puck behind the net and up to the blue liners. It helps you with your breakout. So if I'm Tippett, I'm playing Smith game one because honestly, I still don't know if I can trust.
I think he's going to play Smith game one. I do.
We'll find out. I don't think so. I think he's going to go with Koskinen game one.
I think it's a little bit more of a coin flip, but. That's me. I thought Smith was good. I thought Koskinen was okay.
Can they play solid D in the playoffs and hold leads? This has always been a thing with the Oilers. The Oilers team is better. The holding leads than they have been in a long time.
It's a lot better. The defense is much improved under Tippett. I definitely think they can do that.
Yeah. Will they get secondary scoring after McDavid and Draisaitl? That's
they
will.
Yamamoto is going to score. I think Nugent Hopkins is going to contribute. You have Casey who's going to score a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident right now with the Oilers against the Blackhawks. I know some people are hyping up but I know there's people hyping up the Blackhawks because Duncan Keith is jacked. Congratulations, he's jacked. Can he skate at the level that he used to? Thank you.
I'll be the skeptic as I usually am. The Edmonton Oilers have to prove to me that there's something after McDavid and Draisaitl. If Yamamoto, if Athanasiou, if Tyler Ennis at this secondary level can produce, then they could go pretty far in the West. But I'm not convinced that they can because in the end,
if nothing else, Mike, Athanasiou will open things up for other guys because the Blackhawks defense is not that fleet of foot. But
he better bite back on the play better than he has in the past because we know.
Yeah, but I don't see
an afterthought for him.
I don't consider they should beat Chicago.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't consider that like a determination of the Edmonton Oilers
how
being
good they are, and how truly good they are in terms of other teams in the West. I agree.
Exactly.
They actually, more than any other team I saw yesterday, looked like a team that had gone through an off season and was starting the next year and had grown.
Well, you know why? Because we talked about this before the pause. I mean, McDavid came in early to play this season off of rehab. Now he's had a whole extra 4 months to rehab, and now he looks like the McDavid of 2 years ago.
He's got that extra gear.
He does.
And the better question is Edmonton's the 5 seed, right? So they're going to get the lowest of the 4 seeds. Which is their worst matchup in the first round?
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a good point. We'll get to that. We'll talk about that one.
I think it would be Dallas because Dallas would try to suffocate them.
Yeah, I do think Dallas is right. I think you're right about that. And Bishop could be awfully tough.
Vegas might be hard for them because Vegas has they attack so much. I could see them.
But that's playing into what Edmonton wants to do. They want freewheeling. If you come up against St. Louis or you come up against Dallas, they will smother you with a pillow and try to kill you.
Right, but I think what X's saying is that maybe Vegas exploits their defense.
Yeah, they do exploit their defense. I mean, I think
they do that. That's possible.
They take so many more shots and so many.
Dallas have to win every game 2-1.
Yeah, that will be a test of the theory if Edmonton's defense is actually good, which I'm still skeptical about.
Yeah, Flames question marks. We're gonna start. We're gonna start right off the top with the one we've talked about before, and I know it's been a question mark on almost every team today, maybe every team, but goaltending. Okay, so goaltending, which
neither,
and is either really good enough. Like that's like
neither.
Yeah, that's what I said. I
think they're gonna go with Rittich. That's who they're gonna go with.
Yeah,
I think Talbot actually probably outplayed Rittich, which isn't saying a heck of a lot.
No, but I still think they're going to go with Rittich and see what he's got.
Talbot's at least taken a team to the Cup Finals, right? So he has.
Yeah, but I don't think they look at Talbot that same way, Jan. I think Talbot right now is the clear backup until Rittich blows it. I think that's the way.
And the one John Gillies. And the one thing
they hated John Gillies for whatever reason.
The one thing that you have to factor in when it comes to Talbot is. Yeah, he was on the Oilers last year. They know his weaknesses. They played against him in practice all the time. That is valuable when it comes down to a playoff scenario. So not to say that they don't know Rittich because they play him 4 times a year, but I think that would be a factor.
I think they're going Talbot personally. That's just gut call.
I think you might be right. I mean, it is of course you're playing the Edmonton Oilers, so you do have to give 2 of the goals, beautiful goals by McDavid. No one's stopping them.
Yeah, I mean.
It's a tough one on goalies yesterday to say, that was a tough one. Final question that I have, and this is a Flames question, and I think this is the key to the Flames. Can Johnny Hockey be a playoff force?
Yes, I'm not worried.
Personally, I don't think that whole line. I mean, Lindholm got the power play goal. I don't think that whole line. I mean, Matthew Tkachuk was by far their best player up front. Look, he's an agitator. He does his job very well. But I don't think the rest of that team looked particularly good last night up front, except for him.
And I'll say this because clearly Matthew Tkachuk and Zach Kassian did not get the memo that was an exhibition game because they were out there. But if Zach Kassian throws the type of hit that he did against David Gustafsson in a playoff scenario, which was about 2 inches away from being a head hit, that guy's going to get suspended for 3 or 4 games. He's a loose cannon. He does not know when to, not to say pull it back because you want players that play with energy, but he is a loose cannon in terms of what he tries to do, and it doesn't belong in the league sometimes. What he tries to put out there.
I think what you saw in that situation with Calgary is a team that realizes how important these playoffs are to them. I think that.
All right, hold on. I want to stop this one thing because I see Randy says Gaudreau has no interest in playing. I would 100% disagree with that. I get that you might be frustrated, Randy. But Johnny Gaudreau wants to play hockey. This guy loves the game.
To back up Randy for a second a little bit, Gaudreau's last 2 playoff runs have been horrible. I mean, last year, 5 games, 1 assist. Two playoff seasons before that, 4 games, 1 assist. So that's what he's had. That's what he's done in the last 2 playoffs.
He doesn't want to play. That's different.
I know, but I'm saying that he's a point a game player in the regular season. He can't get 1 assist.
I think what he's saying that the fact he's not using. I think what he's saying is Russ saying is that the fact that he's got the whole contract issue potentially down the road isn't impacting his ability, and it's not driving his lack of production.
I agree with that.
He may not be playing well, just that he's not putting in effort. That's not.
And you know what? I mean, it could very simply be, okay, he's a small, skilled player, and maybe his game, when it gets tighter defensively, when it gets a little more stringent, he doesn't react well to it. That's something he's going to have to fight through. There've been a number of players in their career that it took them a long time to sort of get into the swing of things when it comes to playoff hockey. And right now he's not there. And maybe he's got to find that extra
He
gear.
had a good playoff, his first playoff run, but that was
right. But okay, but Monahan didn't do well last year, so does he stink now? And 2 years ago in the playoffs, he wasn't good.
I know, but we're talking about 2 runs. I mean, the Flames got eliminated 5 games.
Offensively, though, my thing is with Calgary is that offensively, pretty much going in who you're going to shut down, and what you have to put priority. And the minute you shut that down, Calgary doesn't have much. I don't think they have much else to answer. Offensively, shut that line down. That's it. It's game. It's practically game over for them. They need more.
Sorry, Anthony. Go ahead.
No, it's fine, Jen. Go ahead.
I was going to say the lack of production doesn't equate to a lack of effort, right? That I think Randy was talking more so that there's the lack of effort, and Russ is saying just because he's not producing doesn't necessarily mean that he's not trying on the effort.
Exactly.
Right. All right, I'm going to do a bonus one here because we have a little bit of time, and the game's going on right now. I'm going to jump into the Florida Panthers questions because.
Okay, let me jump that. Bobrovsky sucks.
All right, no, I mean,
I'm just kidding.
Yes, I know.
Personal statements, Mike.
Just kidding.
Florida Panthers questions. But the first one definitely, of course, is Bobrovsky. They're going to be there. Do they have to go with him? Is he their goalie? I mean, he gave him.
Dridger outplayed him at the end of the year, right? If you really want to look, I understand going with the guy because you're paying him $10 million a year, but there's also something known as a sunk cost, and right now he's sure as heck looking like a sunk cost. And not the guy who maybe is your number one between the pipes in that series.
Let's just say this. If they have to go with Chris Dredger in the playoffs instead of Sergei Bobrovsky, less than a year after signing into a 7-year, $70 million contract, then Dale Talon should be looking for retirement.
He's going to get fired if that happens. There's no question.
But it's pretty interesting right now that, he gave up 4 goals in the first 2 periods. So they were in the third period of this game. Now it's 4-0 Tampa. And, I saw a couple of the goals. There really was not much he could do on it. He did make a couple good saves. He's made a couple really good saves early in this third period, Bobrovsky's playing the whole game, which tells you that they are definitely going Bobrovsky hell or high water.
Yeah, no question. They have to.
Yeah.
And again, they're going up against Tampa in this circumstance, and that Lightning team is
a big one.
Hungry. That's dealing with. That's like going into a lion's den with a stick in your hand.
So the Islanders somehow got a 5-1 win. The Islanders went 5-1 in Game 1. Are you going back to Bobrovsky in Game 1?
The Islanders don't score 5 goals in any.
Suspend belief for a moment and stick with the question here, okay?
That's like going into a lion's den, Anthony.
So fine, make it 3-1, make it 3-1, 4-1 with an empty net goal. Choose whatever number you want. Are you going back to him for Game 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
If he plays bad in Game 2, then you're going to Dredger, and then like I said, if you're Dale Talon, you're worried. It's like you're going into the lion's den wearing Lady Gaga's meat suit.
I mean, there's one thing. Like I just saw right now, there was a complete turnover. I don't know who that is. Number 19 of Florida. Like they're not playing their best hockey right this moment, but their defense isn't great either. It's got to do. Perfect.
And no Ekblad today either.
Oh, okay, well that's a big thing.
Ekblad didn't play today.
But no Hedman or Stamkos on the other side of things.
No, but still, Florida doesn't have the depth that Tampa does.
No, but you're looking at the 2 best players there. Maybe arguably 2 best players.
Tampa's 3rd and 4th lines are as good as Florida's 1st and 2nd almost.
Yeah.
Ooh, Johnny Huberdeau and Barkov would have some words.
I know. Get the idea.
I mean, this is obviously they're not going to play the Tampa Bay Lightning. They're going to play the New York Islanders. Okay, so that's a very different story.
By the way, number 19 is your favorite Russ, Mike Matheson.
Oh, that's who. Yeah, see, he complete disregard for puck security, and Tampa took it right away. Like this is the difference. Again, this is where I'll give John Cooper credit. If Quenneville's just playing his guys to roll the lines and see what he has. Cooper is trying to win this game because Cooper doesn't know how to do it any other way.
Right.
And that could be a bad optic here too for the Panthers.
Well, if Tampa Bay doesn't make a run this playoffs, you're going to start hearing the whispers about Cooper, even though he's got a contract extension. So,
yeah.
Bobrovsky just made a very nice glove save on a breakaway against Tyler Johnson. Bobrovsky.
So Sergei Bobrovsky is the East Coast version of Mikko Koskinen for Eck.
No, that's a trophy winner.
Half the price.
There's a few more trophies in there.
Yeah, he's a totally different
I was
thing.
going to say.
No,
Mikko just started up with Kucherov. Like, what the hell is going on?
Mikko Koskinen is in the Carter Hutton fan club.
Right. No, this is this is going to be but other questions for the Florida Panthers.
No, it's 90. Who is that? 98. Who's 98?
Other questions for the Florida Panthers. Do they have enough offense to beat the Islanders?
Sergachev.
Oh, Sergachev. Sorry. Yeah, they just went at it. They were punching each other.
They have enough. Do the Panthers have enough offense?
I mean, with Barkov and Huberdeau and with Hoffman and with Dadonov, I think they can.
Yeah, no, the offense isn't.
Remember, your Islanders are one of the best defensive teams in the league, so you have to take that into account. That they are one of the best.
They are. The sum of the total is greater than the individual parts of the Islanders. You look at that defense, even though they're getting Pelech back, they don't look at being a great defense, but the system that Trotz and Mitch Korn have put in maximizes how the play that Varlamov and the defense has.
They play every man back defense. The Islanders.
Offense isn't the issue for the Panthers. The issue is them having they're playing a couple defensemen on the wing during the regular season because their defense was so bad that Quenneville couldn't trust Pysyk or Matheson playing defense. So defensively, they got average goaltending and their defense was below average. Other than that, they were fine.
You know what the problem with Florida is? I look at them, and they probably have 5 or 6 players that are on borrowed time, and they're going to be playing somewhere else next year. And that's the problem. I kind of wonder what the complete buy-in is of the Florida Panthers. That's what I kind of wonder.
No, I think that's a really accurate point with Florida. I think there's no real sense of direction with this team, and no sense of long-term direction.
Conger told you that.
Well,
You dealt Vincent Trocheck for Eric Howell at the deadline. I mean, that should tell you all you need to know.
I mean, the issue here is, as we've seen in many a year with Quenneville in Chicago, there are players that are Quenneville players. And he comes in with a new situation, and clearly Trocheck was not a Quenneville player, and clearly some of the defensemen are not Quenneville players. And that doesn't mean that they're not good NHLers, because guys like Trevor Daley didn't fit in Chicago and went someplace else and were successful. They're in the midst of a transition. Now, the question is, if Bobrovsky's not a Quenneville player and he's making $10 million for another 6 years, you're screwed because you can't get rid of that guy.
See, this is the problem. Florida's got a 5-on-3. They can't even get possession off the face-off, and Tampa knocks it right out of the zone.
Yeah. No, they're. I mean, they've had some power plays in this game.
It looks like they have 6 players.
So the only reason taking them against the Islanders is what you're telling me.
The only reason they had, some of the power plays, you had to, if you didn't see the clock ticking down the upper corner, you wouldn't know it was a power play at all. Like, the teams were literally just going back and forth on the ice. The Florida, and when you watch the Panthers, though, when you first see them, you know how the whole image thing that white always looks bigger, like the team wearing white always looks larger. That's a general rule. And that's like
black is thinning.
What was that?
Black is thinning.
Black is thinning. But the Cowboys, one of the reasons they always wear white, you look bigger in white. The Panthers look way bigger than the Lightning, like in this game, just size wise. It's just fascinating to watch. Like when you watch it, it's just Panthers have some big ass guys. Like
but big doesn't mean.
I'm not saying that's an advantage. I'm saying their defense is huge, though.
Big doesn't mean better. That's the problem.
I'm not saying it means better. I'm just saying it's just astonishing how many big guys they have on their team. Like, they just are a giant team in general. I'd love to see if they're the largest. I am known to find a place where I can.
Curiosity more than anything. Can you play?
Yeah. I have to bring this up before we end the show, because I saw this on social media last night and it was pretty hilarious. That David Pasternak, who is ensconced at Hotel X in Toronto, tweeted out. And maybe it wasn't him, maybe somebody stole his phone, but tweeted out that Tom Wilson was the best goal scorer in the NHL. So needless to say, if it was Pasternak, somebody left a case of Yukon Jack in his hotel room. But then Tom Wilson responded and he said, "Thanks for the compliment, Pasta, but I'll go with Ovi." So there's this little thing going. I mean, and remember all these.
I bet you Marshawn got a hold of Pat.
Yeah, probably.
Got his phone.
So this was an ultimate troll job.
That totally sounds like that would be Marshawn's speed.
This was Marshawn phone licking.
By the way, Panthers 5-on-3 had maybe 2 shots that were anything missing the net. This team does not look good.
No, they really. I mean, they haven't gotten any confidence. They are playing probably the best team in the NHL, though. I mean, Tampa when Tampa is playing better. Russ, you and I remember never forget. Russ and I were in the press box when the Tampa came in last year to play the Flyers and sit next to them, and I just looked at one point. I'm like, they look like they're in another league. Like, is there a league? Is there like, are we in the AHL and they're in the NHL?
It does look like that.
It's like watching Formula One and seeing Mercedes pretty much blowing away everybody else in the field. When they're on, you're not beating them.
Yeah, no, they were that way for about 20 minutes of the playoffs last year, and then it all went down.
I know, and it's crazy. But when they are on, they are crazy.
Actually, Bob just made a good save there. But if you got a 5-on-3 in a preseason game and you can't put it away, I'm a little worried.
Yeah, no, they're definitely there's some.
The one thing we can take as a general overview from the games that we watched yesterday.
Yeah,
you were talking about how the referees were going to call things, and again, granted, it was an exhibition game for the officials as well, but they were calling penalties like the beginning of the regular season and not the beginning of the playoffs. The Montreal Canadiens had 6 power plays. There were a number of power plays in Philadelphia, Pittsburgh.
No, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh.
I'm sorry, in Calgary, Edmonton.
Yeah, that game flew by.
Yeah, but
yeah,
they called a lot of penalties. I think it was 9 in the Toronto Montreal.
5-0.
I would expect very much that, in these exhibition games, the refs are going to call everything, like, because that's like basically laying down the law type things.
They didn't call everything in 2 of the games I saw, though. They called the obvious stuff.
Well, Philly, Pittsburgh, but Philly, Pittsburgh, those teams really, there were no like plays that you could say that they should have called. Like that was a really unphysical game, the Flyers Penguins game. There were a couple hits here and there, but I mean, for that Flyers Penguins, like, especially like when you were watching television beforehand, where they had like a half-hour documentary basically on about the Flyers and Penguins series throughout the decades. I mean, this one didn't quite have that intensity.
If Florida played Tampa in a series, not only would they get swept, I'm not even sure they would score.
Yeah, it's true. This is like no, and this Tampa team
get one.
They might get one. They're like the Washington Generals against.
They'll get 1.5.
I mean, but the question is. And like, so this kind of walloping might be the best thing for them going into the Islanders series.
Well, it's going to help Quenneville because he's going to rip them.
It's going to, and we've seen it. Like, I mean, I have done that thing. I do that blog every year that if a team loses by 5 goals or more, they like 85% of the time win the next 2 playoff games. It's like this ridiculous statistic that when you get killed in a playoff series, now this isn't a playoff series, granted, but when you get killed in a playoff series, the team that kills you lets down, and the team that gets killed wins. It's just like you can't get around that, right?
Yeah, the Islanders struggle a little. They could put a scare into them. There's no question.
Could. I mean, I think they have probably the best matchup they could get.
Yeah, I agree. Because clearly Tampa's an awful matchup for them.
Tampa's an awful matchup for them. I think, with the exception of Montreal, there's no team that they should be, the Islanders are the best thing they could have. And I think that they have a serious shot against the Islanders because Bobrovsky, I mean, they would have definitely liked him to be better today, but he was good in the 3rd period, so give him that. And Bob is pretty good at, he's pretty good at rebounding, but man, the Tampa Bay Lightning, they just are a way better team. They're going to be really hard.
Even we're watching a preseason game, and there's no give up on any puck on any play.
Yeah.
Not even a little bit. And
the precision in their passing is what always gets me about the Lightning. They are crazy precise with passes. And they're small. They're not a big team. I mean, that's where Columbus got to them last year a little bit. You can beat them. You can push them around a little bit and throw them off their game. But Florida looks so much slower than them. It's like it's not even.
They look slower. They look disjointed.
But they're large.
Yeah,
they're giant. I mean,
white colors.
And the Islanders aren't
white pylons out there.
I mean, the Islanders aren't fast. The Islanders are a pretty fast team, but I wouldn't call the Islanders a super fast team.
I'm not sure I saw Brian Boyle ever win a fight. So if you have him as your agitator, you're in trouble.
Well, I think fighting in this game. I think I'm going to give him some credit. I mean, he did. That was a good thing.
He did that because yes, he wanted to destroy. But
if you can show your team some, I mean, remember you're fighting. There's no crowd there.
I know.
it's kind of crazy. Like, a lot of these guys get riled up by the crowds, before they fight. I do think that does play.
And this team still flatlined. That's the problem.
Well, I don't know if there's been an announcement yet about who's going to play in goal for the Blackhawks, but it will be interesting if it isn't Crawford.
Yeah.
If they do go with Delia, how he plays, because I mean, that could be as quick of an out as Montreal against Pittsburgh if it is Subban or Delia and Crawford isn't capable of playing at a certain level.
The game I'm really looking forward to today is the next one, honestly. I want to see the Avalanche and the Wild game at 2:30 because to me, this one, like we talked about how surprisingly good the Wild were since January 1st. And the Avalanche were incredible, as we know. I think you're going to see a serious game there, and I think that's going to be a fun one. And this is the kind of game that could really, I mean, if the Wild can keep this one really close and make a really good game out of it.
Well,
it's a lot of confidence.
What I'm going to be interested in,
I think the Wild are going to win that series. I do.
What I'm going to be interested in, Russ, is are they going to stick with Stalock? Or are they going to go back to Dubnyk?
No, I think they'll go back to Dubnyk, but if they still feel like he's not what he was a couple years ago,
I was going to say
they won't hesitate.
They won't hesitate. They know they can pull that shoot quickly if Dubnyk's not there. If Dubnyk's on, then you stick with him. But Stalock's look great.
He's going to have a short leash.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't, and they're not saying what they're doing. Obviously, they're keeping it very. Even it very
really is.
And the thing is with Dubnyk, he is a confidence goaltender as well. We've seen that. He's had some great run. He's had a great run through that script, but we also see when things kind of go off track quickly, it gets ugly real fast.
Yeah. And then after that, you've got today. You've got the Hurricanes and Capitals. That's also got some interesting. I want to see what the Hurricanes.
That'll be interesting to see if the Capitals are motivated.
Yeah, see if the Capitals played very poorly, like we talked about down the stretch. The Hurricanes, they haven't had their whole defense together ever,
And to see who can play worse.
And they still won't, but they made trades. I mean, we're going to see guys like play for them that we haven't seen play before, right? I mean, they made some trades like that's going to be interesting.
And we can see who plays worse, Mrazek or Reimer.
Right.
You said Florida's bigger, and I don't disagree, but I see them getting rubbed out of every play, especially McDonough. He's just running guys into.
They're getting outworked big time, but they're larger in general. But they're getting outworked.
Not helping them.
I mean, the whole thing is just great. So then the Blues and the Blackhawks, that'll be, that's a test. I mean, the Blackhawks are taking on the Stanley Cup champions. They might be the worst team in the playoffs. They're taking on the Stanley Cup champions. That's going to be a tough one. I mean, I think Montreal is the worst team in the playoffs, but I think the Blackhawks are the worst team, and might be the second worst team in the playoffs. And then
in this game, Crawford's going to play. I think they're going to wait because he hasn't practiced enough.
He's not ready.
Play him. You can't just throw him into the.
Well, he hasn't practiced enough. That's the problem.
You got to even look at it like a practice. Just get him out there. You got it. I mean, you have no choice. The next thing you do, you're going to be facing the Edmonton Oilers. I mean, it's like you can't.
Yeah, giving up 7 against the Blues will do wonders for his confidence.
Yeah, maybe
as opposed to the 7 he may give up against Edmonton.
It's better than throwing him to the Oilers. I mean, gosh, the Islanders Rangers, that'll be fun as it always is, and that's two games like. Go in different directions. The Rangers were incredible since January. The Islanders were terrible since January.
Yeah, they're going to make sure they pull in the Honda truck at Scotiabank Arena to make them.
There you go.
Somebody else is using an SUV now. I can't remember who it was.
Yeah, I think and the Canucks and the Jets are tonight.
Maybe should pull in a Skoda.
I want a Skoda T-shirt so badly. Like I want that logo that's on center ice of all those international games. I want on that on a T-shirt. I've looked for it. I've tried to find it. Love that logo. All right, so that's it. So lots of games today. Hope you guys are enjoying it. Hope you guys are having fun. I think that's all we got, guys. I think we're good. Remember, folks, without the